All set.
All righty. Well, welcome everybody to the Thursday, August 7th, Town of Webster 2026 Board Workshop. This is the second of two. We were here last Thursday to hear 6 or 7 department heads present, and we are right back here for the second one. I'm going to give a similar preamble to last week, but with a little update, Paul. The preamble last week was that the aggregate of the budgets being presented last week and this week by the individual department heads is a budget right now in totality that is under the New York State cap. And I said this board, the last 5 years, at least since I've been supervisor, we have gotten budgets each year that were under the New York State cap, and I have no doubt, I think I can speak on behalf of the town board, that the 2026 budget, the sixth budget and the last one I'll oversee developing, is going to be under that cap also. I had said last week that once we're done with these presentations in these 2 weeks, that the work is not done. We're tentatively scheduled for September 4th to adopt the preliminary budget, and we would spend the next 3 to 4 weeks tweaking. And we already had a tweak this week. How about that one, Kyle? And I got to say that Paul Adams, our finance director, I don't want to steal your thunder on this news, but our credit rating as a town with Moody's came across as AA1.
Correct.
And because we have an excellent credit rating because of the way that this town has been financially managed over the years, long before I was supervisor, by the way, that afforded us, no pun intended, that when we put bids out for our short-term financing and also our long-term bonds on these capital projects this year, this week we got the results in, and the low bid created a situation where Paul had estimated principal and interest on that debt for 2026 in the preliminary budget, and it actually came in about $800 and some odd thousand less because of the interest rate and terms, and that's directly related to our good credit rating. So that's a tweak. We got to figure out when you have good news like that, Paul. That was good news. And last but not least, last week I handed out, and I'll hand out to anybody who's in attendance, and I'll pass it around. This is a screenshot that kind of shows the last 5 or 6 years history of the town's budgets, tax levies, fund balance, and I think even for a non-accountant it kind of shows why we're in the position going into 2026 that we are, and that's a good position. So if you would pass that down. And with that, I will hand off to Deneen, our first presenter tonight as town clerk.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. So first, we're going to start off with the tax collection department. There's no change for staffing. It's comprised of 1 part-time clerk, 1 full-time clerk, and the adjustments to salaries are based on longevity and cost of living adjustments. If we go down to computer equipment and licensing, we have 1 required PC replacement that we're budgeting for. For printing and postage, of the $28,050, a total of $15,000 is estimated for reimbursement from the Webster Central School District, which will be posted and realized as revenue once we receive it. For department expenses, this is comprised of office supplies and legal notices, which I'm estimating 50% of those costs to be reimbursed by the school district. For revenue for the tax department, it's estimated at $180,000, which is based on historical collection of town and county interest and school interest. And this is difficult to predict year over year, therefore we do our best estimate for that line item. Okay, on to the town clerk portion of the budget. In regards to personnel, no changes there to staffing. It's comprised of one full-time deputy town clerk, one full-time license fee clerk, one part-time clerk, and one part-time receptionist. Adjustments to salaries are based on longevity and cost of living adjustments. For computer equipment and licensing, I'm requesting replacement of 5 out of 8 total computers. All are said to be obsolete during the 2026 calendar year, and 3 of those computers are used at the counter for our in-office transactions. For printing and advertising, this includes legal notices and the cost to update the town code, which typically occurs twice per year. No changes to postage and no changes to office supplies. For records management, we're seeing a slight increase in our vendor services for shredding, so that has a very small increase. For machine and computer contracts line item, this includes our general code, Laserfish support, town clerk software for fees and licensing, copiers, and our Pitney Bowes postage meter. There's a very small increase here due to vendor invoicing increases. The subscriptions and publications line item, this is for E-code, which is found on the town's website, which is where you'll find the town code. For conferences and transportation, this will be used for my attendance at the annual New York State Town Clerks Conference, the annual New York State Tax Receiver Conference, and travel to Monroe County Town Clerk meetings, which are held every 2 months. There's the background checks for peddlers licenses, that remains unchanged. And then we're on to revenue. The town clerk's fees are comprised of New York State DEC hunting licenses, fishing licenses, marriage licenses, and miscellaneous fees. Our return check charges are return fees. We charge $20 for checks that return from the bank for insufficient funds. For Easy Passes, we're seeing a decrease in our Easy Pass sales for our office, so I'm lowering that line item for revenue from Easy Pass sales. Just a downward trend year over year. Dog control fees are charged to the dog owner when animal control picks up their lost dog. There's a seizure fee of $40, and there's a boarding fee of $35 per day for the first-time offenders. And I just want to point out too that all of our town fees, they can be found on our town website by searching for keywords fee schedules. For the Webster Central School District tax collection reimbursement, this is the line item where the reimbursement will be received from the school district and it'll be posted. For dog license fees, we continue to partner with animal control officers, which has helped to increase the number of dogs being licensed in the town. And we've been working together and working through our backlog of unpaid dog renewals. Town clerk license fees, this is comprised of peddlers licenses of $4,000 and waste hauler refuse licenses of $5,500. And the last item for town clerk permits consists of special event permits of $2,700 and one mobile home park permit of $300. And that is all. Are there any questions?
No, you answered the question I had. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jennifer?
I'm assuming the PC replacements are all because of Windows 10 becoming obsolete.
I think it's just the computers themselves they're ready for upgrade, they're old.
Jenny, any questions?
Well, thank you. I'm proud to be the liaison for the department as well.
Thank you, Ginny.
Patty?
I have no questions. Nice work, Janine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janine. We missed you up at the podium here, so. Well, guess what, Steve? You're handed, we're 5 minutes ahead of time, so see how you make out on that. Everybody's been going over next to Art. You know, they're nuzzling up next to Art.
Who hung that TV up? Alrighty. Push it out, if you don't mind. Alright, as you see, the first three lines, that's staffing, myself, John Camille, and Anthony Sansone. Any and all increases in those lines are always greatly appreciated by myself and staff. Next one is capital purchases. That one you do see a little bit of an increase in there. The big thing in there is John and myself are looking to get some laptops, mobile computing devices, things like that, to have those in the office for us to work on and use, especially with the new network upgrade we're trying to get going. It would be very useful to have mobile devices. Next one is director training and seminars. There is an increase in that line. That line is primarily the $3,200 from this year. It was used for our training for our staff. It has been increased now because that also includes the membership fee and conferences for the New York State IT Directors Association that we went to in the spring, which was actually very helpful and very useful. They do have another seminar coming this fall. We might be sending John Camille to that. It's actually local, so, but I got to work out some logistics with that. Office supplies, pretty flat. That's basically buying paper up at Deneen. Same thing with smartphones. Technical support, you do see an increase there. Some of our radio equipment that we use for interconnectivity between the buildings, some of that had built-in warranty support with it. That warranty has now since expired, so now in order to continue to get support for that equipment, we have to pay for support contracts. We had to bump that line up a little bit. Director's expenses, mileage, such and such. Website design and maintenance, primarily we use that for domain name services, the webster.ny.gov, the CI name that we use, all the different domain names that we have registered. And then cell tower rent, pretty much flat. We're doing pretty good with the rent this year, so there really isn't much of an increase there. So you do see there is a slight increase, but also our debt service is much less this year than what we were actually asking for this year, because we've gone a different route with our network infrastructure upgrade and things like that. So we're actually, what did I say? About 27,000 less than
Yeah.
24.
Yeah, I think
Still,
the annual,
So I mean, it looks like an increase, but our actual debt service for 26 will be a
yeah,
lot less than what we were
debt
projecting for
service is
this.
about 29,000 a year for network equipment that
Yeah.
we purchased. And
So we,
where do we stand on that grant?
actually, we're still waiting to hear.
Okay.
Last I heard, I guess the state has the money, but the state doesn't know whether they can give it to us or not, because, with
Okay,
some of the federal stuff where it came from, they might have to give it back, is what I've been
okay.
hearing, but we're still waiting on that. But we are moving forward with our infrastructure upgrade. We're just holding off on a portion of it so that we can apply the grant to that portion if we do actually finally get it. And that's kind of why we've been holding off getting that done, and it's kind of thrown a little bit of a wrench in our plans for next year. So there's really no big projects for next year, because the infrastructure upgrade is going to take a while to get completed. So we're hoping to have our first round of equipment in at the beginning of the fourth quarter of this year. All the equipment is built to order, so they're in the process of building it now, and hopefully it'll ship, I'm hoping, September, October timeframe.
Great.
Any questions?
Thank you, Steve.
No
I just
question.
have one quick question. You talked about the laptops for mobile access and other
Yes.
things. What are the other things that the laptops are going to enable?
So we can connect to like the network infrastructure equipment. So we can actually walk up and, like right now, John went out and bought a cable for a smartphone, and he plugs his smartphone into the switch, then he sits there and he types with his phone to program the switch. So if they have a computer to be able to do that, it'd be a little bit easier. Plus, it'll give us the ability to test new things for mobile access for things and stuff like that. But the big thing is to being able to do like wireless studies, to connect the networking equipment. So,
Great, thank you.
yep.
Any,
Thank you.
Jenny, any questions?
Thank you.
No, thank you, Steve.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Have fun, Art.
This is awesome. Moving right along. Uh-oh. I guess the next department needs this extra time.
He always does.
Arthur?
I don't know how Art should feel about this. Steve said,
Yeah.
"Good luck, Art," and you said, "Uh-oh."
Yeah.
I don't mean that. He knows what I mean.
Okay.
All right,
Ready.
Art, have at it.
So, yeah, we've got a few line items. I'm gonna hit the highlights or the biggest deviations, during this. So we're gonna, slide right down to, computer equipment and licensing. We were able to reduce that a little bit because we've been a little bit ahead of the game on purchasing, equipment, computer equipment. Next one, you'll see a 643% increase capital purchase of equipment. And that is for the replacement of the generator and the electrical at Mill Creek Pump Station. That is north of 30 years old. The electrical components, the breaker boxes, the conduit is rotting. So we're going to do that all at once and get it, take the station down, put it on standby power, and get it all done in one fell swoop. Now we're going to slide down to, where are we going to go next? We got a lot of lower items percentage-wise. Maintenance lift stations, just again, they only went up 9% from 55,000 to 60,000. Wet well cleaning, we dropped a couple $1,000s. We're doing more and more of that ourselves with both flush trucks. There's still a couple wet wells that are too deep and or unsafe to send our staff down into, so we do farm some of that out. The commercial billing software, percentage-wise, 25%, but it's only $500. That is a new software we're implementing currently to give better service to our commercial clients, actually, and to put out, be able to take credit cards. They'll be able to, we'll send the invoices by email, and we'll be saving a lot of postage on that as well. We're going to go down to sewage treatment, G8130. Capital purchase, the largest thing there is a loader and/or forklift for the dryer building and our receiving area up top. We don't know what that's going to be yet, and until we get functioning up there, then we'll really drill down into what piece of equipment is appropriate. Again, computer equipment and licensing, we're able to drop that 42%. Payroll time software up 18%. That sort of is just a software cost. Sludge hauling, G8134-0372. That's going from 573,000 down to 360, and that 360 we're keeping in there because we are planning on, and we have to plan on being conservative, sending all of our dried product to the landfill, pending New York State legislation. I think you've all heard about that they're considering banning any land application of Class A fertilizers. So it is approved in the Senate, stopped at the House. So we're planning to financially send it all to landfill if we have to. Heating contract maintenance, that is up from 10,000 to 14,000. That's a very easy one. We have 4 new heating systems. We have 4 new DOAS systems. DOAS systems really control the outside air in the buildings and keeping everything at code. All of that needs to be maintained at a professional level. Again, computer maintenance is driven by IT. Sludge dryer maintenance, so that's 36,000. So what that is, it's a plan for our distributor, our vendor partner, to come in once a month to spend 8 hours with our staff to run the machine, to help them run the machine, and to maintain it. I plan for that once a month, and as we, John, will take you a question.
No.
Oh, okay. So I planned on it once a month. Rick and I's plan is we will not need that as we go on, but we're planning for it. You know, they'll really tell us from the get-go, and these are guys that have run these things down in Endicott. That guy they've hired, so,
Okay.
you know, how to clean the belts, how to maintain it and everything, so we plan for that. Centrifuge preventative maintenance, down to 0. So we're hoping we can sell that thing.
It's barely hanging on.
Barely hanging on. So, calibration repair went up a little bit. We just have so many sensors, meters, level sensors within the facility, and we're adding more as we go. So those need to be third-party calibrated and tested on an annual basis. Cleaning services and supplies, that went up because we do have, with all the new buildings going in, we have a tremendous amount more to clean. That, we're actually looking to look at other vendors for that, to try to drive that down. Generator repair, so that $6,000 is for the current 800 kW plant generator, and that is for service twice a year. And we've also added in dollars for any repairs that may come up. Oils and greases, that increased from 5,000 to 7,000. It's just, it seems that every new piece of equipment we're putting in takes a different oil or a different grease. And we will not deviate from what the manual says. So if it takes X grease or X oil, we will use that and we will change it, you know, when the manual states. So lab analysis is going down a little bit. We're doing more of it in-house, and Rick has gotten past some of the, caught up on some of the hurdles that tests that haven't been done for years and years. Natural gas has gone up. That fires the dryer. Dryer. Electricity obviously is going up, and water a little bit because we have so many more areas to clean. Although we do our best to use effluent water, there's still areas we need to use potable water, and we also, with the 2 flush trucks, when we fill out of some of the hydrants, we obviously get charged for that. So I'm going to pass it to you at this point.
Employee benefits. Yeah, the 2 line items that have gone up quite a bit are medical insurance for the employees, that's up about 13%, and the medical insurance for the retirees is up about 30%. We've seen a very large increase in the Medicaid, Medicare supplement policies, so that's being reflected in this year's budget. But, so overall, benefits are up about, 70,000 in that range. You want to talk about revenue, or?
Back to me?
Yeah.
I'll do that. So I think the biggest one you'll see is the high-strength organic waste, and that is obviously one of the cores of why we're doing what we're doing, and we're having this ability to generate that revenue because of that 1.1 million gallon digester. This is product from Fairlife. It is product from others. It's pumpable. People call it food waste, I guess is the easiest way to say it. That goes directly into our digester, and that is food for the digester. That does not run through the plant and does not get processed chemically. Fairlife rents, we're estimating them at just south of $500,000. And those 2, and along with septic waste, those 3, Rick and I have been very, very conservative on those, and we think they're good numbers. From what we've been told, we've actually partnered with a local septic hauler, one of the biggest, to try to calculate those numbers. Xerox rents, as we know, Xerox is getting smaller by the year, so we've reduced that. Sewer inspection, TV sewer inspection, it's just a flat number, dropped about 17%. In that construction, I think we all know in Webster, it's sort of slow at the moment, and we see that moving forward. Penfield sewer rents, I reached out to, Penfield is obviously slow as well. I think they told me they have 2 new homes scheduled for next year. So their rents are definitely decreasing.
It's coming to an end.
Coming to an end. So back to you, sir.
Interest earning is based conservatively based on history. That's at 100,000 for the year, flat year to year. We've got an appropriation of about $500,000 year to year, which is we're using fund balance to balance the budget. And move on to capital charges.
Capital charges, absolutely. So building improvements, we're keeping flat. We do need to keep some dollars in there. As much new construction as we have going on, there are many buildings that aren't being touched, the exterior or roof. Engineering consultants will stay the same. Capital improvement pump stations, we were able to lower that a little bit over the past, I'm going to say, 6 years. We've done a very good job of methodically going through our 22 pump stations and upgrading them from pumps to control systems to whatever it may be. We're going to, and generators, quite honestly. We're going to continue that step-by-step approach, and that has paid dividends in overtime hours and keeping staff home at night and not working in the dark at night, which is unsafe. Capital improvement collections. This is cleaning and lining of sanitary sewer mains. We have numerous mains that are cracked and being infiltrated with roots, which are causing backups. One of the things we purchased last year was a manhole camera, which is on a pole, and with that, it's been very efficient with our flushing, and it's allowed us to identify some of the worst areas.
Debt service. All right, we actually had our band and serial bond sale on Tuesday of this week, and we took the band that was outstanding for the conveyance pipe project to a serial bond. That's a taxable bond. The interest rate came in at around 4.5% for that one, which you're expecting it to be higher because it's taxable. But the band, we're borrowing about $66.4 million for the big project. Came in very good. When the interest rate net of the band premium was 2.6662%. So it was very good. I had originally budgeted 3.5%. I wanted to have some margin in there, but I wasn't expecting quite that big of a delta, so it's a very good thing. So it ended up, I ended up saving about $637,000 in interest on the sewer side, so it was a very good thing. But overall, since we're borrowing more, debt service is actually, the cost of debt service is actually up about $563,000 when you net everything out. But it's as expected. I think that's about it. Then we have similar revenue items for the capital side, which basically pays for the infrastructure and the debt service on current projects and previous projects.
Would you talk about the transfer of sewer capital reserve, please?
Yeah,
Again, that's something I'm very proud of.
Yep.
That we do that.
Yeah, we've actually built in a $300,000 transfer to the sewer capital reserve. So basically, it's going to be held in surplus or a reserve to be used for future projects. The reserve fund currently has about $2.4 million in it. We've hit it quite a few times over the past few years, so we need to continue to replenish it. So the fact that we can build it into the budget is a very good thing.
very smart thing to do.
Was
Thanks.
remiss at the beginning of this to mention that unfortunately Rick was unable to be here. He had planned on it, but he had something come up that he could not join us, so. Any questions?
Yeah, just on the utilities end, on the natural gas in 2024, your actual was 24,465, and I understand, you know, it's budgeted for 2026 at 160,000. I understand it's a dryer. The dryer's it's gonna use that much natural gas, you're assuming, or you're planning on?
Yes, that's the expectation, yes. It's a gas-fired dryer.
Did you just also, because I'm really looking forward to this dryer building coming online. I did not think that we were still going to be spending that much money on hauling it to the landfill.
So remember, if you will, the initial plan, right, when we got into this, was to be able to give it away.
Right.
And we've always kept, again, Rick and I, being conservative, we've always kept a number of 200,000 in there. But with the New York State legislation, and those are leading New York State, want to ban it. This was our plan in the event they ban Class A fertilizer from land application. We had to cover it somewhere in the budget. So it'll be far less than, it'll be less than we normally haul out as far as weight, right? Because it's only going to be 10% water instead of 70% water. But this is worst case scenario.
Okay.
If we have to send it all out, that's what we plan for.
But that legislation has not gone through yet, correct?
It is not, and I believe, and Rick is very much in tune to Albany and so forth, but I believe the Senate has passed it, it is stalled in the House.
Yeah, it's been held up right now.
Right, but it's
Yeah.
still, it still needs some, a lot of advocating on our part and everybody's part to make sure that doesn't happen. So again, John, we wanted to put in worst case scenario situations.
Yep.
There may be times and will be times that we are setting wet cake out. We have a conveyor being installed in the middle of that system. If the dryer's down, if it's down for maintenance, we need to still keep processing. It'll shoot it out the side of the building into a dumpster. So there still may be times, you know,
Right.
very small quantities, but
Do you track that by month,
what's that?
what you're spending on hauling?
We track it by day.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
we get weight tickets per day.
It'll be interesting to see the reduction as we go.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think back, you know, when we started this project about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I think it was, I think for every one dumpster we send out now, it'd be like, you know, it'd be six dumpsters to one dumpster, I'm sorry. So 6 dumpsters of what we send out now would be equate to 1 dumpster in the future.
Wow,
Because again, there's very little water into it, it's just hauling.
that's great.
Yeah.
Is there more? What's that?
Unless there's questions.
Any questions, Jenny, John?
I'm good.
All right, well, I can't let this moment pass, all right? Art Patron, our deputy DPW commissioner, joined the town, I want to say in 2017, Arthur?
I think so.
And he was brought in to really oversee the $12 million Phase 1 sewer renovation project of mostly the secondary clarifiers. And that was Art's specialty, since he had worked for Christian Construction Management and actually had been the construction manager for this courthouse and the town hall building back in 15 and 16.
Had nothing to do with that post.
Okie dokie. I hold it against you. Anyway, I will say this, that Art, his last day with the town is next Wednesday, August 13th. 8 years. And Art, I got to tell you, he walked into a situation, he managed the $12 million Phase 1 project to under budget and really on time or ahead of time. And then he really has been managing the $85 million Phase 2 project that we have a contract of, with Navitas on energy performance. And I think he's done a wonderful job managing that. To give you some perspective, and I know people are saying, oh my God, the debt, and all this. The sewer business, and it is a business, the sewer plant is a business. These upgrades that Art has been, pivotal and leading the charge on managing, took our actual business in 2021 was $3.8 million was sewer. In '22, it was $4.6 million. In '23, it was $4.6 million. In '24, it was $6 million. In '25, it's budgeted at $8.9 million. And this '26 budget is budgeted at $11.1 million. That business has grown from $3.8 million in '21 to what we anticipate in '26 to be $11.1 million. Now, the reality is, the business is funded by users. He took over a plant that had 17,000 users in 2021, majority of them being residents, an EDU, equivalent dwelling unit. You see it on your tax bill in January. You got an O&M, operations and maintenance or whatever, and then a capital. And in 2021, we charged the citizens, I want to say it was, and it's on the Excel spreadsheet that I handed out as a preamble to this, we were at $187 that we charged the citizens. And essentially, we charged our other 1,500 EDUs, which was commercial and industrial clients, that same rate. We have moved that rate up over the last few years, and in fact, this year, in '25, it's $253, and next year, we're proposing $259. Paul Adams has told me when he left the town back in the early '90s to go into private industry as a young man, still young, that the EDU charge in the early '90s was $200. And when he came back 30 years later, he was shocked to find out that that EDU charge was $187. How does that happen?
166.
How can you charge, it was $166, right. And there's a myriad of reasons for that. But if you don't fund the sewer plant and that business appropriately, when it rots, which it will, and it did in '17, we didn't have reserves of 20, 30, 40, $50 million to pay out of our reserves for those improvements, for that rotting plant. And that's why we are going into debt. I got to give Art a lot of credit that once he got on board, and he was very instrumental in bringing in Rick Canale, our chief plant operator, and Rick is phenomenal, and what he brought to the town back in 2021 was a vision of, hey, and if you're going to have to fix this old stuff, why don't you try to fix it and make it technologically advanced for major cost savings and revenue production? And we were introduced as a town board to that concept of an energy performance contract. I'm going to be very honest with you. The first couple reactions was absolutely not. Never will we do that. That's not the way how municipal projects are done. And so we had to educate the board members and have one-on-ones and this and that. One of our board members, God bless him, who's not with us anymore, he was adamantly against it, but after hearing the benefits of it, he wanted to do every project that way, didn't he?
He's just not at the table, he is with us.
Yeah, well, he's alive.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear.
Bill Abbott, we love you. But he saw, like, wow, this is phenomenal, let's do every project. We're like, well, wait a minute, we can't do every project this way. It's a very specialized energy performance, you have to tie it to things. But when the town board listened to Art and Rick and went that angle, or that option, and it's counterintuitive. It cost more in the project, but it was going to cost the taxpayers less. Now that, come on, I'm an accountant, Paul, you're an accountant, that's not intuitive, right? That can't be. But it was, because instead of just replacing the old toilet with a new toilet, we replaced and added some stuff that got us new revenue sources and had big cost cutting. And the combination of those things made essentially, what we thought was going to be a $30 million asset replacement project. When we made it 50 or 60 million, it actually going to cost less than the 30 million. And we had to show that over a series of workshops and board meetings. Along the same time, Greater Rochester Enterprise is looking for Coke Fairlife. They got 12 states and 40 potential sites that they're going to build a plant at. And Fairlife, being a dairy producer, I didn't know this, is a major sanitary sewer producer. So much so that this town's sewer plant, 45,000 citizens, 17,000 users, does about 3.1 million average gallons a day into that plant. When Coke Fairlife is up and running, Coke Fairlife will put 2 million gallons a day into that plant. That's how big they are. Coke Fairlife, when they looked at this site, they were so impressed by what we were building here that I truly believe in their regression equation of decision-making on those 40 sites in 12 states. They'll never tell us, but our state-of-the-art sewer, visionary sewer plant, was what really sealed the deal to get them here. Now, Art is leaving, and I think, I've known Art. I knew him long before I worked with him here. Our daughters played lacrosse together. And he's going into private industry, and they're lucky, whoever gets him. And the reality is, and I've told Art this, is that the skill set Art has, he was the right man for the right time as we navigated that 8 years of the construction of this plant. Now we have an $11 million business that, to tell you the truth, we have to look long and hard as a town board of what is the type of leadership of that sewer plant going into the future. Because I'm going to tell you, if Xerox starts to subdivide and they sell off 40, 50, 100-acre parcels, there's going to be another Fairlife coming. So we already went from 17,000 users to about 29,000 now. Is it out of the realm of imagination we could hit 40,000 users in this sewer plant in the next 5+ years? That's a different business than what he took over in 2017. And the board, will have to look long and hard on what is that. We will not go, I'll tell you this, Art, and you know this, we're not going to go out and get a construction manager as their background because he did that. And so it'll be very interesting. But I can't thank you enough. You did great.
Well, thank you.
And I appreciate it.
I also want to chime in because I have been liaison to the sewer department for a very long time. And Art and I have worked together on many of these projects, and I'm very proud that we're building a state-of-the-art facility, which will take us into the next 30, 40, perhaps 50 years, and we're seeing the benefits of that, as you pointed out with Fairlife, in the years to come. And Art, both you and Rick have been, you were in place at the perfect time, and you guided us along that process. And I just want to thank you for imparting all of the knowledge about wastewater treatment that you have. And I've always said I'm way more knowledgeable about sewer plants than any girl really ought to be. But when Art calls me out and says, bring your boots, I bring my boots, and hands me a hard hat, and out we go. So Art, thank you very much, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Well,
Thank you, Art.
Adam, how do you follow that?
I can just
I'll give you the last 5 minutes.
It'll take me 5 minutes to get up there.
Oh dear.
Oh, for
Like
that. He is, this poor guy.
Thanks, Art.
We'll talk about that.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Adam.
Hi, Adam.
Art is a hard act to follow, and I believe for the 3 years that I've presented to this board, I've had to follow him every time, so.
We don't change the order.
No, leave it the same. Art, you're gonna have to come back next year.
this one from back.
Yeah, right?
We'll pay your stipend.
All righty. So, actually, I have a question. Did I miss something? Yeah. That's supposed to be about $2,000 less.
I don't know.
Okay.
You have to send me the correction.
All right, so there's a correction that, so off the top, there's a correction that needs to occur on the director's salary, my salary. That is only supposed to be a 3% increase. I don't know why that is a 6% increase, but that, Paul and I will get that corrected. That being said, we'll start with salaries. So my salary should not be that. It should be 124,571 was the budget. That's a 3% increase. As a reminder, the library is not part of the same town. Thank you very much. The same town schedule. We do a 2% step for full-time staff and a 2% COLA for all staff and a 1% step for full-time staff. I'm currently on that step scale, so thank you for correcting that. Appreciate that. Going down the line, salaried personnel, there is a savings here, it seems, but not really. It's actually removing a position that was classified in salaried, a full-time position that we added last year, to hourly, because it's actually an hourly full-time position. So that's reflected there. However, all staff are receiving, for full-time staff, they're receiving their 2% COLA and their 1% step where applicable. There's only 7 steps, so if they've been there for longer than 7 years, they will be just receiving the 2% COLA. And then all hourly staff are going to be receiving the same percentage increase that the minimum wage is, which is a 3.3% increase. And again, the reason it looks so large is because we moved that full-time position that was originally positioned or is categorized as salary into the hourly position. Moving down, our equipment line is up. We have a server replacement coming up in 2026 that accounts for that increase. Next is automation. As many folks have probably already said, the Windows 11 upgrade means we need to buy some new computers that can handle Windows 11, so that's going up a bit. Moving down to utilities, we're expecting the increase on gas. I don't expect a change in our rate there aside from RG&E's increases. Electric, we're actually seeing some savings. Oh, did I jump down? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm looking at my working spreadsheet. I'm sorry, everyone.
That's right, you're
I'm
in slightly different order.
I'm in slightly different order.
All right.
Can we go back up to the
We'll
top?
pop back
then?
up.
All right, let's go back up to the top. So, conference line, we're keeping this flat. You all voted to support an increase last year. It's more than served us. We're going to keep it the same this year. Telephone, this is playing catch up for the Ring Central conversion. Initially, we were quoted that it was going to remain the same. Paul and I crunched numbers and came up with the correct figure, I think. So that is a large increase, but should be remain at the same increase that the town sees from now on. The copier lease is flat, so that's a $3,000 fee, and that's one of our money makers that you'll see in the revenue. So that pays for itself. Credit card and usage fees, I'm actually expecting this to eventually go down as we've declined or decreased our fines and fees. But we haven't seen that actual decrease yet. So we're still seeing revenue coming in. And we were also able to move to a new, more modern system. If you've been in the library recently, we have Clover, so you can tap to pay, you can Apple Pay. I don't think we do doubloons, but we've seen a decrease on our overall fees as a result, which has been great. Membership and notices, we're keeping that flat. That's primarily our membership in the New York Library Association. Next one's the big one. Our building rent is staying flat this year, but common area charges and taxes went up 7.3% this year. They were flat last year. This is kind of their cycle. They usually are flat for a year or two, and then we see a chunk of an increase. So that's what's listed there. Postage, a modest increase here. Building service contracts, aging materials, aging equipment costs more to repair, so we're seeing an increase there. We are hoping that some of this will come down next year as the library is getting a new roof. The landlord has put a new roof on the one building in the plaza. They did a partial roof replacement over the library earlier this year, and I believe the rest of the roof will be replaced by the end of, hopefully by the end of September. They're scheduled right now to schedule at the end of August to start construction, or demo, excuse me. Rentals and repair, same thing here, as we need to rent equipment to dry the library out or get a wall patched up, things like that. That's what we're budgeting for in that line. Our Monroe County Library System cost shares are going up. They were flat. Actually, I think they received a reduction in 2024 and 2023 as well. We are seeing an increase there. There's a couple of reasons for that. The biggest one is up until now, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation offered access to Office 365 to libraries for free. This year, they ended that program. So at the end of this year, libraries will have to pay basically an educator's rate. So it's still at a discount, and we still find consortia that we can work through to bring it down. But the system pays that, and as you may know, my library web email address, if you and I have exchanged emails, is different from the town's domain, and that's because we're on the county system. Subscriptions go up every year. We do our best to control costs, but we're seeing a small increase in that one. Library materials, that line, again, this is books, DVDs, that kind of thing. As we are trying to catch up with our peers, as I believe I presented to this board 2-3 years ago now, I'm trying to do a slow, iterative march to catch us up with our peers. In 2022, when I started here, we were at $100,000 and our peers were at $200,000. And that played out on a per capita basis as well. So I'm slowly trying to add $10,000 a year until we hit that $200,000 mark. Obviously, their budgets will have shifted, but I'm trying to play a little catch up so we're not borrowing so heavily from those other libraries. And what that equates to for the taxpayers is shorter wait times for the books that they want. Library databases, database costs go up every year, just like any other subscription. We are seeing a rather large increase for a couple of our vendors who are, for lack of a better word, sole source. Cleaning supply maintenance, we keep negotiating to try and keep that flat. Same with our office supplies. As a note, our office supply line is also the supply line where the books get their stickers and their Mylar covers and all that stuff. So if you're saying how much can a library spend on paper clips, it's not just paper clips, it's also all the ancillary stuff that goes around a book or a DVD to get it out. The magnetic swipe things, all that stuff. Natural gas, back to where I was a little bit ago. We're just expecting the normal increase from RG&E that they've published and was approved by the state. Electric, we have seen some serious savings. I think you counseled me, Paul, to be a little more conservative, but
Yeah.
we're seeing a good amount of savings off that LED conversion we did. I know Terry had started it before I started at the library, but we finished it primarily with funds from Assemblyman Mangtelo through what used to be known as Bullet Aid. That's been a really, really good cost savings for us. We were also able to capitalize on rebates that I believe are being sunset, so we were able to take some of that and put it back into the library as well. So that's been a really, really nice project for us. And then water, we're just trying to budget to actual there. The more people we get in the building, the more water we use.
Want me to talk about retirement?
I would love that. Thank you, Paul.
You see a very large increase to retirement. For the first time, and I don't know how long, Kelsey and I, who handles our payroll for the town and some HR duties, took a hard look at all employees in the town and which of those employees participate in the retirement system. So basically, I did a reallocation across all the funds, and library was found to be quite a bit short So I think prior year budgets were understated, so I wanted to right size it this year. And it's kind of a double whammy because retirement costs have gone up substantially also in the past 2 years. So that's built in there too. And the other line that's gone up quite a bit is the medical insurance for the employees. Once again, I think you just have more people participating with more premiums. And the rates are up, of course. I build in about a 12% increase. So those are the big changes in the benefit side.
Thanks, Paul. Scrolling right down to revenue, printing remains a moneymaker for us. I know we'll reach an inflection point at some point in the future when demand for paper goes down, but we're not there yet. I continue to estimate less than actual because I don't know when that's going to happen. But I would expect, we're on track to make more than $12,000 this year. So I would expect that in 2026, we'll probably do that again. It'll change, I don't know when, but we're not there yet. And I think it's partially because we have a lot of people who come in who have internet access at home, who have computers at home, who have smartphones, who don't have printers and don't see the point in keeping them anymore. So we've got a lot of people who come in who otherwise have every mean able to go over and print themselves, but decide to use the library. So that's been a nice source of revenue for us.
It's the cost of ink.
What's that?
It's the cost of ink.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we're paying for it
Crazy.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, 100%. And it doesn't help that those things are cheaper to replace than it is to refill.
It's sad, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Library card replacement fees, we're keeping this same, and this is money in, money out. We buy the cards from the Monroe County Library System, and then we pass that on directly. And these are just replacement fees. If you're coming in as a new user, a new patron, you get your library card. If you need a new one, we charge you for the plastic we gotta buy for that. Billing replacement for lost books. This is pretty low, not actual cost of the books that we receive. We do encourage people to try and find replacements where possible because they can usually find them cheaper than we need to charge them. So this isn't really, I wouldn't really consider this revenue, but it is money we take in. There is a loss that's behind this figure though. Interest and earnings, again, Paul has counseled me to be conservative here.
Yeah,
But
trying to be.
we've done a good job building that fund balance in anticipation of what comes next for the library. But we have seen a nice earnings on that fund.
But you're doing well with interest earnings. Rates are right around 4% still.
Unclassified revenue, the staff and I work to try and find little things here and there. So the Friends and the Foundation of the Webster Public Library independently helps support new programs. Sometimes this is money-making programs. Years ago, they funded the seed money for a coffee program. So you can come in, you give us $1, we give you a K-cup and a cup for coffee. That was all self-funded. I wanted to reflect that in our budget because it's not funded by private funds anymore. It's funded by itself, and it really is a service that I think our residents have grown accustomed to. So that's what, we're trying to find little places where we can recoup some of that revenue and reflect it in the budget. So it's small potatoes because generally speaking, libraries don't sell things, but we will continue to try and find areas where we can, operationalize some of those programs that have long been offered. And then state aid, through the advocacy through the New York Library Association, the state is expecting an increase in state aid. We don't see a ton of money from that. Most of the state aid that comes from the state goes to operate library systems that help support us, but that is reflected there. Any questions? Yeah.
Wait, first I would like to thank you, Adam. I mean, we have a lot of positive for our library, and again, I'm honored to be the liaison for library. I know you're doing a wonderful job, try to conservatively, save the taxpayer money and everything else, but then give the community everything that they, looking for the library. So, and I thank you for that, and everyone that work at the library as well.
Thanks, Jim. John?
Adam, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Thanks for your presentation tonight. So when I go through these budgets, I will look at the 2024 budget and I'll compare that to the 2024 actuals. And when I look at the building rental expense, in 2024 budget was $264,000. The actual was $19,720, which is a significant delta. And I know you had mentioned earlier that the rental fluctuates, and I wonder if you could just give a little more detail on that.
I think that's a question for me.
Yeah, because I think that's when we separated, it was 2024 when we separated them, right?
Yeah, we separated, but I think you're saying it's a very small rent, even though we budgeted much higher.
Correct.
Because it has to, GASB 87 requires us to reclassify rental payments that are handled through a lease to debt service. So this is an entry which occurs toward the end of the year, which basically skews the actual expense account. Ends up in debt service. I've continued to budget it as rent expense rather than lease principal and interest payments, because I think that's more confusing.
Does the same hold
So,
true
right,
for
the
the
budget,
building common
so
charges?
I think the budget makes sense doing it that way, but when you compare it to the actuals, it looks way off.
Yeah.
You're right.
Could you repeat your second question, John? I couldn't hear.
Does that pertain to the building common charges also? Because 2024 budget was $211,000, the actual was $123,000.
That must have been the same, right? I mean,
For the CAM?
For the CAM and the taxes, yeah.
CAM is also affected by that, for that
Okay.
same reason.
And the only other question I had was the library materials.
Yep.
The actual one, 2024 was $108,000, and you're budgeting $140,000. I know you had mentioned something about your peers
Yep.
budgeting $200,000. Who are your peers? Your
Those are the other
Comparing
large
to.
suburban libraries. So those are the suburban libraries in Monroe County that have over 30,000 residents. So I think Pittsford just peaked that. So the 2020 census was the last, check
Right.
where there was a change. So Greece, not Henrietta, even though they not act like it, but perform like it. But it's Greece, Fairport, Pittsford, Penfield, everybody, all the big towns except for the city of Rochester, that's kind of in a class of its own.
So this is just for you to order more books or?
Yep, exactly right. So we're in a collective system, right? We all borrow from each other. Our peers, actually, every single one of them was at 200,000 or higher. And I think in the presentation I gave, we were at 110,000 that year or 100,000. I'd like to get up there. One of the things that a lower, I call it collections. It's not, I know, Tom, you hate that word. But the fewer materials we have, the harder we have to lean on the other libraries in Monroe County. And while that's a net gain for us in terms of the volume, the wait time then increases because all Webster materials go to Webster patrons first. What I mean by that is, let's say the next John Grisham comes out, right? Everybody wants to read it. A Webster copy, there's 300 people on the holds list. There might be a person from Greece, a person from Fairport, a person from Ogden, and then a person from Webster. Our book skips that and goes to the Webster patron first.
Right.
So the fewer Webster books we have, the heavier we have to lean on those other libraries, and the longer Webster patrons have to wait.
So we send our, I'm
No,
just, I'm confused. So if we have 6 Grisham books, and we only have 2 Webster residents on the list, we will send the remaining 4 to other outside municipalities?
Yeah, well, other libraries in Monroe County, yes.
I did not realize that.
Yeah,
Yep.
libraries let you borrow books from other libraries that you go to and they don't have. If
I
they
did
don't
not
have
know
what you
that.
need, they'll find it and bring it to your library, so you don't have to drive to Ogden.
Yeah,
Nice.
That's why it's
Yep, we do
Now it all
5-day
makes sense. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Yeah, we do 5-day delivery service, and those trucks run, actually, the line item automation, it's called that, but the Monroe County Library System, our membership in that system, that's what one of the things that line item helps support.
Great. Glad I asked that question, 'cause I did not know that.
Thank you. What's that?
Do we deliver, or is it handled at the Monroe County level?
We give it, so we send and receive books every single weekday out of our, our front area. They come by every day and take books away from us.
Okay.
And we also receive returns from other libraries. If, like when Xerox was much larger, a lot of people outside of Webster would use the Webster Public Library because they worked here and it was convenient. And so we saw a big volume of returns to other libraries as well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
I just have a question, but my question is more geared towards Paul, I think. The cleaning, I noticed the cleaning went up pretty significantly in the sewer department. And last year it went up pretty significantly again because there's more buildings and again this year. I see libraries flat, which is great, but there's a lot of cleaning expenses, and like we did with the garbage and consolidating, is there an opportunity to look at a consolidation of cleaning contracts centrally?
Well, they're now part of our cleaning contract.
Yeah, and we don't have a contract. We actually have staff on staff that we've, I shouldn't say that, but we have cleaning staff on hand, and so this particular cleaning supplies and maintenance is literally just the supplies it takes to clean the library.
I see. Well, I guess then for not the library and everything else.
Yeah, I think it's time to take a look at that.
I think that would be great.
And I know Tom and I have talked about some of the staffing strategies that we've used internally that the town may be interested in. I think looking at it as a whole town is probably the best, because I know the waste contracts, I was pleasantly surprised when I saw what my monthly was going to change to.
Yeah.
So.
We're falling a little bit behind. I will
Sorry.
say
I'll shut
that one of the first things we did in 2021 was we looked at 7 different cleaning contracts. We consolidated into one. I think we saved $90,000 to $100,000 a year from that. At that time, I asked Terry Bennett, who was the library director, do you want to join in this? Because they're under New York State scholastic rules. They don't have to go along with us, and she decided, no, we want to have our W-2 person clean, and so they opted out. Now, where we're at 4 or 5 years later, whether it's worthy to put an RFP out, possibly, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've had 5 years go by. It might be interesting to test it out again, and I've never had the chance to ask you, Adam, do you want to participate in this, or do you want to keep going with your own?
I got to say, our cleaning staff, believe it or not, are part of the fixture in the morning for a lot of the patrons and residents, I should say.
I agree.
So, I don't know. They've been doing a pretty bang-up job over there, so.
They do.
Never a question of the quality of the work. I
Nope.
think the question is more about the cost.
Yep, absolutely.
So,
Do you track that cost, your W-2 people that are doing the cleaning? I see you track the supplies, but you track the hours that they spend on cleaning and the cost?
So we report all of our hours just like every other town employee. So they're in Munis along with the rest of us. So we can do hourly costs if we wanted.
Are they full-time?
No, we don't have, it's all, we have 3 part-time cleaners and 2 part-time, we classify them as maintenance mechanics who do kind of our handy guys.
All right, thank you.
thanks there, Adam. Hope you feel better, my friend.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, well, we lost 5 minutes, so
Sorry.
let's see if Keith and Josh can get us back in the swing of things.
Sorry, guys.
So like we do every year, because our community development and engineering budgets are essentially intertwined, Keith and I will be alternating and presenting portions of our respective budgets.
Thanks, Josh. With that, I'll start us off with the building maintenance. This is sort of the facilities manager position of the town engineer here. And I'll just hit on some of our high points here of increases or decreases. So the first one is capital improvements. We kind of tracked to last year's actuals and what we had occurred, and found that did not meet that $200,000 level, so we've chosen to reduce that. We do have a couple of things that are on the horizon. One may be a generator replacement for the town hall. It may actually include adding a generator for the town court building. And we may be on the hook for some air handling unit replacements, one on the town hall and potentially one at the town court here. Last year, we had identified a potential to do sort of a town-wide building facilities assessment. That sort of that did not get completed in some ways because of the just sheer lack of manpower and bandwidth to take that on. And we may look to redo that here in some upcoming years, but we don't anticipate doing that in 2026. I think at this point, I've got enough background about some of our buildings here to move forward and understand what we need to do in the immediate future. So we eliminated that from our budget. Some increases in maintenance, just these are sort of the emergency things that come up, or the sky is falling moments. This is if we have to replace a compressor unit or toilets or whatever here between the town hall and the town court. So that's sort of a guesstimate, if you will, of what we think we might need for ongoing maintenance. Town cleaning services, our contract is up, I believe, at the end of this year, and we are looking to go out to an RFP. We did look at previous bids that came in when this was first awarded, and noted that the next low bid, if you will, or the next bid on the list was considerably higher by about $9,000. So we identified at least that much as a potential going into 2026. And then finally, within this first category here of building maintenance is a telephone service. And I would have to actually acquiesce to Paul on that because it's not a dollar value that I identify.
Yeah, we have seen some pretty sizable increases. The bill gets split with the general part-town and time-wide fund. So we just adjusted it to what we've seen, actually.
Thanks. All things being equal within that building maintenance, you'll see that we do have a reduction from about 492,000 to 318 for 2026.
Okay, the fire marshal's office, we did a slight increase in the overtime line. These are for call-outs on after business hours and on weekends when the fire marshals are called for various reasons to sites. And we based the increase on the frequency we've been seeing this current budget year. The salaries are pretty much set by the collective bargaining agreements. There was a slight increase in computer equipment and licensing. The capital purchase vehicle accessories, we've eliminated that. That was a one-time cost associated with outfitting one of our new leased vehicles, so that will not be a recurring expense. Vehicle operating lease expenses are remaining flat as we've replaced the vehicles in this particular unit. The training and seminars, I actually, since sitting down with Paul and doing the first draft of the budget, was able to sharpen my pencil, and we're actually able to decrease the training and seminar down to 1,000. The course that the fire marshals took in Syracuse is no longer being offered, so now they are taking advantage of another opportunity that is local and more affordable. Supplies are remaining flat, and we actually have reduced the auto maintenance. This could actually be reduced even further due to the vehicles being essentially brand new, so we can actually drop that down to 500 to cover just basic oil changes and tire rotations. And then there's a slight drop in the fuel costs. So pretty much year over year, pretty steady. I don't anticipate a reduction in the revenue line for fire inspection fees. I'm not quite sure why that was reduced.
That's about what we're tracking, actually, so
Okay.
I put in the amount that matched actual history.
Okay. So the way that our billing works, we do send out the invoices quarterly, so there tends to be a lag time from when we send out the invoices to when we receive the revenue. But regardless, we do anticipate it to remain roughly in line with this current year. And then in terms of the Conservation Board, nothing really drastically changing here. I believe there's just a slight cost of living adjustment for their stipends.
Okay, Public Works, this is the category that town engineering primarily finances a lot of their efforts out of. Again, I'll talk through some of the changes that we have direct effect on, as well as, where we see significant increases or decreases, and there are primarily 4 of them here. First, I'll start off with full-time employees, B1490.10111. This represents, I believe, both the cost of living increases, step increases, as well as the addition of a half FTE. We are proposing to, in this year's budget, to have an engineering technician, hire an engineering technician. We did have a position open that was for a part-time construction inspector. We'd like to no longer fill that position and fill that with actually a full-time engineering technician. The next one, yeah, again, here is the town hall cleaning. This is similar to what we talked about under the facility maintenance lines. We anticipate a fairly significant jump there. Moving down into conferences, which is .40140. Both Josh and I anticipate attending a number of conferences in 2026 that we've not had the availability or the ability to attend in 2025. I can identify a local Institute of Transportation Engineers Conference, a Rochester Engineering Society Conference, as well as an APWA conference. All of those conferences include continuing education credits that I am required to maintain my PE license as well. And then finally, there's a significant jump in item 40278, which is engineering and surveying services. And this was a miss. This $5,000 was a miss as of last year. It did not get properly budgeted, but we are tracking fees that are in the neighborhood of probably $100,000. I don't know that it will be that much, but it certainly is a line item that we need to maintain at some significance to take care of areas of expertise that neither I nor Mark, our assistant engineer, have.
You say that's for
knowledge of.
surveying?
What's that?
What was that for, the $100,000?
That would be for any types of outside services, engineering fees, external engineering fees, or if we need to have surveyors come on for specific needs that are related either to plan review or capital projects that we're maybe undertaking. It's a catch-all for those.
Thanks.
I will let, we are looking at a slight increase, well, not a slight, about $100,000 increase in that category year over year.
Okay. Building department, we have one part-time employee, building clerk, who is actually retired and works approximately 30 hours a week. We've kept the overtime relatively stable year over year. The building inspector and assistant building inspector salaries are, again, governed by the collective bargaining agreements, as is the code enforcement officer. Computer equipment and licensing, again, remaining pretty flat. Professional services, now this we budgeted, you may see a pretty substantial increase. Much like Keith described, this was budgeted for a specific purpose, but it was utilized over the course of maybe even 2024 at the beginning of the Fairlife project. So we are anticipating continued support early in 2026 based on the schedule of construction for that project. I think Paul had been utilizing this line for that, but when we originally budgeted it, it was intended for another purpose. That's why there's such a significant delta there. The professional services for code enforcement, that was eliminated in error in the current budget. So we're putting that back in for 2026, and that is to serve official notices associated with code enforcement where our town employee is unable to reach them, or if it's an out-of-town situation. Town code compliance, we're keeping flat, same as this current budget year. That's where we utilize a third-party vendor to perform work that on properties that are not code compliant. We then invoice that homeowner, and if they fail to pay, the cost of that service gets added to their tax bill. Office supplies, again, pretty flat. Slight increase in dues and conferences for the building department, and a slight reduction in fuel expenses.
I should probably point out that just above here in the Public Works section, you'll see inspection and engineering fees, $450,000 in '25, dropping to $40,000 in '26, basically dropping us back to what we normally would collect. The $450 was basic, for the most part, came from Fairlife. They paid us about $1.5 million for various fees, which was amortized over 2023, 2024, and 2025 to match the progress of the project. So 25 is the last year for that, so that's why you're seeing a big drop in revenue. But that revenue is what's funded a lot of these professional services, which were needed to help us get through that project.
Thanks, Paul.
But now that we don't have those revenues coming in and we still have those high professional services,
Well, we didn't spend all the revenues, so
okay?
there's still surplus funds, plenty of surplus funds.
So is there still Fairlife associated project fees or plan reviews that require that level of expertise outside of the departments that would typically do that?
In short, yes. With it being a design-build project, and even though they've made significant progress, believe it or not, they're still making design changes currently. So we are still utilizing our third-party consulting firm to aid in the plan review of each revision that we get. And we anticipate that continuing through the remainder of this year and early into next year.
Thank you.
Zoning Board of Appeals, the only real change here that you'll notice is basically a swap that reflects a change to our current DeMarco Taylor law firm rather than the previous W-2 employee, which was reflected in '25. So that's why those two lines are basically indicating a switch of sorts.
The same for planning.
And then in this section, master plan expenses. So in 2025, we had budgeted $150,000. Because this is a multi-year project that will span into next year, we're reflecting a $50,000 expense associated with those costs. But again, the grant funds we did receive will offset that expense.
On the benefit side, we saw a pretty good increase to the retirement contribution. Some of that's due to increased rates and also the reallocation across all the funds. The medical insurance for employees up substantially. Basically, I found that one wasn't being allocated properly either, so I had to right-size it. So it's not all due to increases in employees or to rate increases, although there is also a 12% rate increase baked in there as well. And then the retirees insurance, that's up about $22,000, and as I stated earlier, there have been large increases to the Medicare supplemental plans. The premiums have gone up almost 100% over 2 years, believe it or not. We had like an 80% increase from 24 to 25, and now we'll probably be looking at maybe another 20%, so.
At some point, do you look at sharing some of the cost increases? Is there something different with municipal government versus the commercial sector? I'm the newest one here, but like, I know even my husband works for the post office, and his costs go up every single year. Are we absorbing 100% of the increases in the budget?
It depends on whatever union contract the employee retired under. That drives how the medical insurance is covered for the remainder of their lives. But yeah, many pay a percent, but that percent is a fixed percent, not a fixed amount, but a fixed percent over their life.
I see.
Yep. And those supplemental plans have gone up quite a bit because of congressional changes and the Medicare law, pushing more of the costs toward the insurance companies. So basically, they're covering less, so it has to be picked up by the insurance companies, which caused the huge spike in premiums. Yeah.
It's tough.
And those increases actually happened last year, but then the federal government put money towards that so that we wouldn't see those huge increases last year. Is that correct?
Pardon?
I said that increase happened last year.
Yeah.
But the federal government came out with some program to put money towards it so that we wouldn't see those huge
That's correct.
increases last
They pushed it till after the election.
year. Yes,
Yeah,
thank
so
you.
you wouldn't actually see it till January of '25,
Correct.
and when it was actually effective in like September of '24. It's just the truth.
Are all these provisional or position, or is it, appointed position for all the employees that you have in your department?
In my department currently,
Yes.
currently there is one provisional employee. Of the two, Mark Stein and I make up the department of engineering at this point. And of that, Mark is still provisional. He is yet to take his exam.
Take the what?
His exam has not been scheduled yet.
Okay. Thank you.
That it? I like it. Any other questions or comments?
No.
All right. Okay, you got us back on track, guys. And we're going to be hearing from you in a little bit, right after Pat presents. You guys are back up doing a workshop presentations tonight, so. All right, well, our last department head presentation of 2026 tentative budget is Pat Stevens, our highway superintendent.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Trying to make this brief, but it's a little tough.
A lot of lines.
With this budget, there's a lot of lines, a lot of moving parts that we analyze every year throughout the year, but got a few notes on a few different things. So, general fund town-wide is where we're starting here. So most of the items you'll see in here, the first couple lines are salaries for employees. Those are aligned with pre-established increases, whether it's per white-collar contracts or our salary matrix for appointed employees such as myself. So those are possible increases. They are merit-based increases, but they are always a potential, so we budget for them. In the area of part-time employees, that's the first big shift that you see there. That is actually a shift in how we look at it. So we had this line and we said, okay, we're putting a small amount for part-time employee in here, but we actually have a bigger dollar value for part-time employee. And the way it was distributed before was across different operations. So we had a portion of part-time employees in snow and ice, which is winter dispatchers, things of that nature. We had a portion, I believe, in leaves, and then possibly in general road repairs, some different areas where there's labor lines. And we kind of said, well, if we're going to have this line, we might as well make it all-inclusive of all part-time employees. So that's what we did. So what you'll see throughout the rest of the labor lines is a slight decrease, even though their contracts also require an increase. And that is where the roughly $73,000 increase in that part-time employee comes from. So it's not an actual increase in number of employees. It's just a redistribution of our total labor cost across the department into part-time. So if you look at this part-time now line, it shows what's being spent on all part-time employees before it was distributed amongst the different operations where those employees would work. Either way works. We just felt that this was a better way to represent this line. On labor lines, just a quick general, because they do shift around, they all have increase covered by some of the union contracts, but the way they're distributed into the different funds and lines of this budget is we take the total number of people that we have, possible increases for the year, and we get a total number, and then we utilize past information on how much time is spent on each service within here, whether it's snow and ice, leaves, general road repair, all of those, and then we assign a percentage to that total. So all of the labor that's in here represents the total number of employees that we need and we're budgeted for, and then the distribution of it, we try to align with any averages that we have over the course of 3 years and things of that nature. So that will apply for every labor line you see throughout the highway-centric budget here. So continuing to move down through the lines, the other thing you'll see in this section of the general is some adjustments that are driven by the new building and the new facility. The general improvements line has gone down quite drastically, over $40,000. That's because a brand-new building should not need nearly as much general improvements as the previous facility. You move along down to capital improvements for the building, same story there, was 15,000, now it's 2,500. That is because we shouldn't have to have as many capital improvements on the building and the facility. We actually had a decrease in security monitoring, currently using a different security monitoring company than we have in the past. It kind of came along with the new building. We get a year of service, and their service for monitoring all of the security and fire for that building is actually less than we had seen in the other facility. So that's interesting, given some of the other per square foot costs for maintenance are going to go up. We'll see those a little bit lower down. Payroll time attendance system, we are working toward a more digital form that aligns with our time clock. Converted back to a digital time clock. With that, we're working on some different modules to have time off and accrual time submitted electronically, so there's some fees associated in 2026 for that. That's where that line popped up for the 4,000. Moving down, other significant changes, you'll see cleaning has gone up significantly, more than double. So we were cleaning a certain square foot of space. Now we have a new facility where we are cleaning in a similar way, a much larger space. The space for 50 people, not the space for 18, where the 50 people were working out of. So there's an increase there. However, this cost and service is associated with the townwide cleaning contract. So any review or RFPs we put out about that and any increases we see this would be affected by anything we do with that. I heard that question come up earlier. Then moving along down, we have some increases in utilities year over year. That's twofold. One is the size of the new building, 82,000 square feet versus the roughly 25,000 square feet that it replaced. It's also because the old building hasn't been demolished yet. We saw some costs last year associated with keeping certain services, heat and water in that building. And that hasn't quite stopped. Obviously, coming up this fall, we'll be talking about Salt Barn. That project has the demolition of the old building included. Once the old building is demolished, I think these will adjust down slightly year over year, but as long as the old existing building is in place, there will be some semblance of overrun in that. So that's also included in some of these large increases. But it's primarily driven just by the size of the space that we created versus what we had before, which was needed to house our fleet. And that's the majority there. So overall, this section is up, $90,000 or so, but most of that is a shift in labor onto the one line, the 73 portion of it, more so than any actual major increases. Moving on to the next one, we have street lighting and signals. You'll see the first line here is an example of what I was talking about. You're going to see a trend down of a couple $1,000s on this labor line. That's a part of that $73,000 that was shifted into part-time. There was a portion of this that was part-time labor that's now been taken out, because in general that should increase by the percentages outlined in the union contracts. But in this case it's going down. The only reason it's going down is because of that shift to the other section. The rest of the items in that section are general increases. The road striping is done by Monroe County, as is the intersection lighting, the last line of there. Their costs continue to go up, just like a lot of our services. So as we procure those services from them for those things, they tend to go up by a certain percentage year over year, which is what we project to happen next year. Off-road drainage, we had a shift in labor there as well. That was based on the running average. We were able to take a pretty hard look with Paul and ourselves this year at a few of our running averages for labor, and in addition to the part-time shift, there were a few areas we were seeing we were expending more labor on certain services. So the adjustment there from 38,000 to 70,000 just reflects what we've needed for this section in the past 3 to 5 years. And then that next section for debt service is...
Yeah, next is debt service, which reflects the estimated amount of principal and interest on our bond anticipation note, which we just sold on Tuesday. Actually, you see this 848, 750 number is going to come in less than that now. This was done prior to us knowing the actual figure, so I'll make that adjustment in the next few days. The borrowing is around 24 million. That's to pay for the first part of the project, and also the upcoming salt barn and the truck wash station, so.
Anticipating that happening, we're ready for that if we get there, which is still the plan. So now we jump into highway fund, the townwide highway. First section there is equipment. Very, very large section. We have a lot of labor in that section, which you'll see again went down slightly here, which doesn't happen per contract. That is really a shift or a redistribution of the total number of employees to various different areas that you'll see. So that's the only reason that's going down, as we see a little bit less effort needed here, year over year. So we made a minor adjustment there. Moving down through CHIPS purchases, that gets directly tied to a piece of equipment. This year, it's actually a portion of a truck that we associated there, but we're planning to spend that much CHIPS funding. You'll see the offsetting revenue line for that in the revenue section for here, so it aligns directly. That's where we will utilize state funding in the form of CHIPS to purchase a piece of equipment that's centric to that work. Then we move on to the biggest line in here. The rest of them are kind of in line, and then we move to purchase of equipment. This year, that line is up. The pieces of equipment that we purchase are of big enough value that if there is any fluctuation in this line, it's not small, which basically means you can't have the pieces of equipment you can unless there's a big jump or not. The reason this line needs to be kept healthy, and I continue to go after it, is to get into a different cycle, a cycle that drives down maintenance. And we are able to realize that this year. When we get down to the maintenance line, that line has come down roughly $100,000. That's a result of some of our equipment starting to get newer. So trying to drive that maintenance cost down and cut down on breakdown time, cut down on equipment, just repairs that we're doing. There's a drastic improvements that can be made. We're now able to get like a 7-year full warranty on our new trucks, which means the cost of operation of our large trucks, our large fleet trucks that are doing the plowing and the hauling, in the first 10 years versus the second 10 years is drastic. 5 to 10 times as much year over year if you're able to utilize them for those first 10 years. So far here, between supply chain issues and just the size of our fleet, I've yet to be able to sell a used piece of equipment, a large fleet truck that was less than 20 years old. So our average is one of the highest in Monroe County as far as total age of trucks. So I continue to push for this line. This line is extremely important. We'll see this year a slight decrease in maintenance costs, which is really what I was hoping to track. The other line that will change over time as we're able to rotate the vehicles out in a better pattern will be the resale. Right now, our resale line is extremely small. A 20-year-old truck, although it costs over $300,000 to replace now, is still barely worth $20,000. When you bring that down and you get that up over $100,000, the net year-over-year cost of the piece of equipment to replace is significant. Paul has it down there. Right now, we're projecting 25 to last year, 16,000 this coming year, and it's really. Honestly, if it's a 6-wheeler and a 10-wheeler, they usually go for $8,000. We've seen that at auction. So there's a really serious discrepancy in resale value when you go from a 10-year-old truck to a 20-year-old truck, as well as downtime. Just the amount of hours that it spends down, the probability that it's going to break down during a snow and ice operation. Some of these times when these vehicles can't go down, we maintain them to the highest ability possible. But a 20-year-old truck is still a little bit of a liability. We really need to get that down. 15, 10 would be ideal, but even if we got to an average age of 15 years, we'd be in a much better place. So primarily that line, the 1,110,000, is 3 additional trucks. As we were going through this and discussing these lines, I mentioned my goal was to replace 2 trucks a year. We currently have 24 full-size trucks. That would get us into a 12-year rotation. Unfortunately, for a lot of different reasons, supply chain, legislation, I have not achieved 2 trucks per year. So I've been here 4 years and we've only gotten 6 trucks. We should have 8 in hand right now. We don't. That's not a budgetary issue. It's just the truck market and the type of truck we're getting. So it continues to be a challenge. But we put a lot of time and a lot of thought, and I'm continuing to do a lot of analysis in this line to make sure my approach to this holds true, because it's a massive amount of money, and it needs to yield long-term savings. I very strongly believe it will, and it's starting to show that it's trending that way, and it will, but we will continue to monitor it. But that is the reason for the larger value in that line this year. We go down through to vehicle operating lease expense. So the vehicle lease program that we have is our pickups, our foreman's vehicles primarily, and a couple of our shop vehicles. We continue to try to exercise the same program with those. We want to be rotating them out in a way that the resale value is very high, which minimizes our year-over-year cost and time to spend on maintenance. So that line is going up to facilitate more vehicles going into it, and possibly buying out and eliminating some of the fees from that program, but primarily just putting more vehicles into it that just haven't come up in rotation yet. That'll be one of the first times we rotate a vehicle out in 5 years, less than 80,000 miles, and that's the sweet spot for the resale. You still get more than 50% of the cost of the vehicle back if you're able to get it switched out in that time frame. So that should drive this line down in long term. Those are the big lines in there. So if you go down to the equipment repair and maintenance, Paul already kind of jumped to there, but you'll see that that is, again, down almost $100,000 year over year. We were able to track that for the last 3 years, and we haven't fully utilized it, haven't needed to fully utilize it, so we're not going to budget for it next year. We hope that that is a sign of everything I've just talked about, that the vehicles that we have replaced and renewed are not needing as many big repairs, and therefore our cost is going down significantly already. Then we kind of go down to the revenue section. You'll see the snow and ice Monroe County, snow and ice New York State. Those are revenues that go against the large snow and ice cost. You'll see in the next section for maintaining their roads for snow and ice. Monroe County, other governments, this is the equipment portion of the highway work that we do. We charge them rental fees for our trucks and every piece of equipment you see out there on the roads. We're currently actually out of town, unfortunately, doing a county road. Fortunately and unfortunately, we're happy to have the revenue work, but we always want to focus on the county roads that are in town first. This year, there wasn't a lot of county road work within Webster, so in order to keep these revenue lines in check, we were out of town. So we're down in Penfield and Parrington right now on Baird Road doing some work. So all the equipment you see there generates the revenue in these lines. We expect it to be similar next year as it was this year. Sale of equipment, like we said, we want that line to go up. It should significantly go up once we get into the better cycle of rotating our vehicles out earlier. Right now, between supply chain issues on trucks, I haven't done any planning for that line to go up yet. I hope to realize some of it and then, have some averages in order to support an annual projection of that to go up. So the last line in the revenue is that CHIPS line. So you'll see the CHIPS Consolidated Highway. That one directly correlates to the CHIPS expense line higher up in the section. It's the exact same value. It represents that we're getting the revenue from the CHIPS funding in New York State to pay for the piece of equipment. And then we're back to debt service again and employee benefits.
Debt service, we're just paying down some equipment that was financed a few years back. So there's about 2 more years to go on that. Employee benefits are for this fund, are pretty flat year to year, so there's not much to speak of overall. Probably, as you mentioned, the interfund transfer, there's a transfer of $550,000 that actually comes from the highway part-time fund and $50,000 from the special drainage district. And that is those 2 funds utilize the equipment that's owned by the highway townwide fund. So it's only right that they compensate the townwide fund for the use of that equipment. So it's basically an interfund management fee to handle the cost of the equipment usage.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. What allows that dollar value to be a little bit higher, but it makes sense because we use the equipment on all of these funds, but we have to pay for it only out of one.
Right.
So that's the key to those transfers. It's a huge help. It's been a big thing the last few years. So jump to part-town.
Part-time fund.
All right, so the next is a different fund. It's our part-town, highway part-town fund. The first section in there is general road repairs. One of the bigger things you'll see there is employee compensation shift. So the biggest shift, and when I say shift, it means that some of these dollars were allocated in different areas, and you'll see some go up and some go down. So with general road repairs and then the permanent improvement section, which is next, we historically paid for the permanent improvement sections, which would be our capital projects throughout town, full reconstruction of roads, with town dollars. And we used the CHIPS funding primarily for general road repairs. I think I said that right, either that it's backwards. But in the past few years, they've started to shift what you can use the CHIPS funding for. And one of the provisions was that you could only use it on a road for every 10 years. So we've started to make the shift to use CHIPS funding, the line Paul has highlighted there, for our permanent improvements, which we are never on a road where we do a significant capital improvement within 10 years. Our capital improvements should last 20 to 30 years, full life expectancy for a bigger reconstruction. So we're utilizing the CHIPS funds for that, so we don't come up against their barriers of using CHIPS funds on the same road within 10 years. So you'll see a significant increase in the CHIPS line of the permanent improvements, and then the dollars that come from the taxes and the town money are going to be used on general road repairs, which is primarily our preventative maintenance program, which is chip seal. So chip seal ends up in the general road repairs. We're going to use town funds to pay for more of that and use our CHIPS funding from the state to pay for the permanent improvements. So that represents most of the fluctuation that you'll see in here, other than the annual cost increases and things of that nature that go along with our salaries. It's a little confusing, but in general, it is a shift from one task to another. Then we move into the other services, which has overtime pay. We saw some of those go down slightly. That was a result of the averages that we looked at. We were seeing that year over year, the averages weren't being utilized, so we took them down by a few $1,000s each. Leaf collection, there's some shift in pay there. We weren't seeing the money being utilized for overtime. We're able to see it in the regular wages, regular time, which is good. It means that our scheduling and our logistics on it is good for avoiding overtime. So we shifted some funds there. So a decrease in overtime and an increase in regular wages. For that section, to cover what we're seeing year over year, overall for the section, not a significant change. Snow removal, there's a few contractual things with that, no significant changes year over year. We're seeing a little bit of, I think with the lighter years, other than this past year, the years previous, the Monroe County is based on a 3-year average. There's some different things with that causes some of these to go down. Certainly no less roads to plow, I promise you that, but just some adjustments in what we're seeing for averages. Snow and ice we bumped up slightly. It's a very difficult year for ice materials, so salt and de-icing material. The last line there, we continue to see those prices go up, and then this past year with the shortage, there was a lot of fluctuation there, so we want to make sure to keep that line healthy so that we have as much material on hand as we can store. Hopefully we'll be able to store more very soon when we get the upsized barn. Services for other governments, you have the compensation county roads. These are actually pretty tightly tied to the revenue lines. You'll see at the end of this section. So they represent the expense that we've put toward some of our revenue generating work for the county, whether it's overtime, roads, or brush. Do the next section.
Retiring, or employee benefits, we do see a pretty good increase in retirement contribution, which as I said was a reallocation, and also higher rates we've been seeing. Medical insurance for employees, that actually was budgeted generously from previous years. So you're actually seeing a decrease in that budget line, even though there is about a 12% increase baked in there to the actual expenses. Retiree expenses for medical insurance, that's up $50,000, which is a substantial increase, as I explained earlier. That's what we've been seeing across the board. So overall, employee benefits are up about 57,000, which in aggregate, not too bad. This fund does benefit from sales tax revenue. Within this budget, I've actually shifted some of the revenue to the general townwide fund. So you're seeing a big decrease right here. And the goal is actually to reduce the part-town tax rates to 0 through utilization of sales tax revenue and appropriate fund balance. And here are some of the other revenue.
Yeah, the other revenues are the services that we talked about earlier. There's expense lines in there to represent them, but essentially in order to remove snow and ice from the whole town and do a lot of these services across the whole town, there's an expenditure for the total, and then these revenues all offset that. So these represent the services we provide for the state and county, and there's a pretty good chunk in there for both sections, hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue, which really helps the overall budget. There's also the CHIPS line in there under revenue, which is reflected directly in the permanent improvements now. There's a permanent improvement expense for $450. That's what we plan to get reimbursed for on CHIPS. So that section is there.
Yep.
Then we get into the transfers.
Here's the other side of the $500,000 transfer that goes over to the highway part-town fund that we spoke of a few minutes ago. And I think that leaves the drainage.
That leaves drainage. So drainage, again, we looked at some averages and different things. So the trickiest part about this one is that there is a large need within the community. We get a lot of drainage calls. We have a lot of drainage jobs. Our backlog in completing drainage jobs is still very long. I say 3 years. That's because that can be in certain situations, depending on the priority of the situation. Some of the maintenance type items still takes us that long to get there. But at the same time, we weren't utilizing this, in the labor in this year over year, so we're going to bring it down. So a lot of the adjustments here are coming down to match year's averages, but we do have a lot of need, and as this fund stands on its own and starts to have balance and we're able to get staff and equipment in line, it likely will go back up in cost, just because there's still a lot of need. For 2026, I wasn't feeling confident that we'd be able to fully utilize the averages that we had seen, so we decreased it, which will result in a decreased rate on the tax bill for our residents, which is very good. But as soon as we are able to get things organized, it's likely that annual fee will go back up so that we can complete more of this work and get caught up on our backlog.
Employee benefits, actually I right-sized a couple of these accounts based on the historical spend of labor dollars. So they budgeted a little high, so I just corrected those, mainly for the retirement and for the medical insurance. And here's the 50,000, which is being transferred over to the highway townwide fund for equipment use. And there's just a few revenues. Interest is the biggest one. It's actually coming down to about a $35 rate right now, which was 39 last year, so it's a decrease, even though in the future I would expect it will go up.
Yep, like I said,
Big need for drainage work.
There's significant need. There's a material line in there that we put up a little bit. There are some of these areas where we can utilize services from third-party contractors to do things like pipelining. So we anticipate doing as much of that as possible. If we can't perform everything ourselves, we'll have to start to work toward that, which is good, because there will be areas in town that need that. That's our last section. I took an extremely long amount of time.
Hey, you're right on time.
Am I?
Not bad.
Not bad.
Thought I only had 15 minutes.
Thanks, Pat.
Thanks.
Any questions?
No, I said this, just a statement, and I said the same thing last year, that I genuinely appreciate your strategic approach to budgeting for the highway department. It would be very easy to just not invest in new equipment and always be focused on patching, and we learned from the sewage wastewater treatment plant and other large projects in the town that that's not a very effective way in the long run from a cost perspective. So the work you're doing there is just, I think, really benchmark. the thought in the truck rotation, the thoughtfulness in how you're leveraging chip seal to get the most out of that by, I think I wrote that down, so you're using the chip seal for some of the longer run projects so you don't run into the 10-year issue. I think you're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you. Thanks, Ben. Jenny?
Thank you.
John?
Good.
Good. Patty?
No questions. Thank you, Pat.
All right.
Thanks, Pat.
Josh, you're back up, aren't you? We're done with budget. Now we're into, I guess, like what we'd call a normal workshop with the 2 agenda items tonight. There'll be somewhat speed dating because we have our regular town board meeting is scheduled to start at 7. So I'm sure everybody who's been here since 4:30 or prior would like to have a couple minutes in between the meetings to grab a couple water or something. So we'll see how we make out of that. So without any further ado, Josh Artuso, our Director of Community Development, will discuss and present the Irondequoit Bay Technical Staff IMA that is expiring this year. And as you're sitting down, Josh, it's funny how things come full circle. Kathy Thomas, who was the town supervisor through the 90s and I think in the early 2000s, and unfortunately, she passed away within the last few years. She was very good friends with my father-in-law. And my father-in-law, Bill Dillon, they became friends when he was the town supervisor in Irondequoit. And is it Channing Philbrick in Penfield was a supervisor back in the 90s? They all had to get together, Irondequoit, Penfield, and Webster, because that's when this started, isn't it, Josh?
Yes.
This IMA between the 3 towns that all abut the Irondequoit Bay, I guess prior to the mid-90s, they didn't have any agreement like this.
Correct.
The way I understand it. And as the supervisors in the county got together, it forged some friendships between the Webster supervisor, Irondequoit, and Penfield supervisor. So go right ahead now, 30 years later.
Cool.
Almost ready, Tom.
Oh, I thought I bought you enough time.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, I promise to be quick. This is what I like to call pretty low-hanging fruit, and just happy to be going over this tonight. So let me pull up the slideshow here. And so, yeah, the topic is renewing the intermunicipal agreement between the town of Webster and the other municipalities and county that abut the bay. So a little bit of background. There's really 2 committees. The Irondequoit Bay Coordinating Committee. This was established in 1985 as an advisory committee through an intermunicipal agreement between the 3 towns that surround the bay, Webster, Irondequoit, and Penfield, as well as Monroe County Planning and Development. So the purpose of the IBCC is to coordinate among various levels of government that have an interest in the bay, all levels of public and private use of the area, and to develop, recommend, and monitor related policies. So the Irondequoit Bay Technical Staff is a subcommittee that the membership is made up of my counterparts at the town of Irondequoit and Penfield, as well as a staff member from Monroe County Planning and Development. There's also a representative from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and the Monroe County Soil and Water Conservation District. So we meet monthly. It was really created to establish a line of communications amongst the towns, particularly around proposed development projects along the bay that had the potential to impact other communities. So common activities that we discuss at our monthly meetings, whenever there's a proposed break wall installation or repair, installation of permanent docks, moorings, and construction of boathouses, alterations and additions to existing structures that are pretty much adjacent to the shoreline, anything really within 300 feet. We also talk about excavation, dredging, filling, any projects that would include any of those activities adjacent to the bay. Boater activities and engagement with the local marina owners. We do have attendance by some of the marina owners, and they are able to provide us with information on boating demands, water levels, things of that nature. Regulatory signage in the bay, such as speed limit signs and no wake zones. And then, of course, protection and preservation of the woodlots and steep slopes that are adjacent to the bay. Part of this committee's charge is to periodically update the Irondequoit Bay Harbor Management Plan with relevant policies, which we're actually, we have completed a draft of that update, and it is with New York State under review. We do meet every month on the third Thursday of the month. The town of Penfield hosts these meetings at their town hall, and they also offer a virtual option for those that can't attend in person. So the crux of tonight is basically to allow the supervisor to renew this intermunicipal agreement. On the left side of the screen, you see the resolution from 10 years ago, back in 2015. And then on the right side of the screen is about a 6 or 7 page document, which is a draft of that intermunicipal agreement. The only substantive change this time around is that the county law department has indicated that they don't think the term of 10 years is actually legal, so they've made a slight provision that allows for it to expire in 5 years with the option to have the supervisor sign to renew for another 5 years. So the IMA will technically not be for the next 10 years, but again, it has that added sunset provision that would allow the supervisor to renew it at that time without having to go through this process. And then any resolution that this board and Penfield and Irondequoit pass, we have to provide those resolutions because this will be going before the Monroe County Legislature at their September meeting. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or hear any comments that anyone may have.
Thank you, Josh.
And just so everybody knows, well, if people have questions and comments, I just want to note, at the 7 o'clock board meeting, resolution number 6 is the resolution to authorize the supervisor to renew a 10-year intermunicipal agreement with Monroe County through 2035. Town's participation in the Irondequoit Bay coordinating and technical staff committees. So that presentation kind of educate the board on the past, present, future. So does anybody have any questions on that? Because I would come back to that at the regular board meeting.
I do not.
I don't have any questions. I think it's
No.
good that there's collaboration between the towns that all abut the area, and it's important to have a unified approach in how the waterfront is developed and managed.
I don't have any questions about the IMA per se, and I don't know if we want to answer this question now or when we get to the resolution, but considering what Josh just told us about the 10-year, do we want that resolution to state through 2035?
Shouldn't it be 5 years?
Because that's how it's read.
Yeah, the
right now.
agenda item says that,
So
but the
perhaps we do
resolution will be
2030.
augmented.
Yes.
Okay.
Got it.
Thank
That's a
you.
good point. You just gave the symptom, I don't want to call it the symptom of the overall disease. When we moved to putting in the Webster Herald and on the website and social media platforms, our board agendas 8 calendar days ahead of the board meeting, it means that we have to send in these agenda items, I think, 10 days before, like Monday. And so as things kind of go on and on and on, sometimes Kim and I miss the actual agenda item description.
No problem.
And it can vary from what the actual.
Just want to clarify it.
So, thanks. All right, well, that moves us on to Keith Mortimer, a presentation about a proposed 500-foot sidewalk on Lake Road from Bay Road to Sandbar Park. You're up, Keith.
Someone's tall sitting in this chair. All right, good evening. So tonight's presentation is actually in conjunction with another board resolution that's in front of the board members tonight. And this is to enter into an IMA with Monroe County Department of Transportation in association with a new section of sidewalk along Lake Road. Just a little bit of a understanding of where we're at. Bay Road tees into Lake, and then to the west, or to the left of your screen, is the Sandbar Park, the new Sandbar Park. So I think it's interesting to point out that back when the Sandbar Park presentations and design were being pulled together, that this connection to Bay Road was always envisioned. And to that end, we would like to acknowledge that we have gone forward with applying for a grant for the design and permitting of phases of these next phases of Sandbar Park. And included in that grant is actually the design fees as well for the sidewalk itself. Some technicalities or technical items about this. Again, it would be a 10-foot wide concrete sidewalk. This would connect up to some existing sidewalk sections that are already out there. It would make our connection directly from Sandbar Park to Bay Road, where the county is proposing to do a road diet and decrease travel lanes and increase shoulders for pedestrian accommodations. Kind of about this project, it's a little more complicated than just standard putting down some concrete. It's again, it's 10-foot wide. Then we would typically propose 5-foot, but it might be actually used as more of a multi-use type of facility. There is the need for a retaining wall. We're not quite sure exactly how tall that has to be, but there is some steep slopes that we may have to retain. Some guide rail relocation, and we also have some stormwater facilities that would need to be modified or extended. The nice thing about this project is we have a lot of right-of-way out there, so we don't need to take any right-of-way, and we don't need any easements to make any of this work occur. Project costs, all in, based on that concept that was in front of you, we're in the neighborhood of $291,000. That includes $229,000 for the actual construction, includes a 20% contingency, and $61,000 for design and other costs associated with seeker and what we call soft costs. So the IMA that's going to be before you tonight is actually in association with a cost-sharing assistance that the Monroe County Department of Transportation has. It's called the Monroe County Municipal Sidewalk Funding Program. They have some criteria that we have to meet, which we do meet for our project. It's got to be a new concrete sidewalk. It's got to be located on a county road, which we are. And there is a 50%, the funding is a 50% reimbursement of all of the construction costs. I just pulled an excerpt out of there for everyone's reference. You don't need to read through it all, but it is a complete coverage of pretty much all construction costs. What is not covered is design, right-of-way acquisition, permitting, insurance, seeker, et cetera. As I mentioned, we have gone forward and asked for those costs as part of a grant in association with Phase 2 and 3 of Sandbar Park. So what does that mean for the town from a dollar perspective? Well, there's really two scenarios. The first scenario is if we receive our grant for the Sandbar Park, which covers our design fees, our contribution would be around $114,000, $115,000. That's 50% of the $229,000 construction estimate at this point. Scenario 2 would be not being awarded the grant for those design fees, and that would mean that we'd have to roll those costs up into our contribution, which would bring us around $176,000. So the proposed estimated intermunicipal agreement with Monroe County DOT is the $115,000 rounded for good measure. Our only outlier there is whether the design fees are covered or not. And with that, questions, comments? Yes.
Can you go back to the original, the slide that has the picture of the sidewalk on there, please?
Yep.
What's the square footage or linear footage of the sidewalk?
So at this point, we're looking at, let me go back to the present. We're estimating somewhere between 400 and 500 linear feet. That's to be determined. It just depends on how we tie in, how far in we have to tie in, and actually how far around that curve to Bay Road that we need to take it.
So this has to be handicap compliant, right? So the
Yep.
sidewalk's got to be like, is it 5 feet now? 5 feet wide
So-
or 6?
I believe
I think it's
the
5.
minimum is 5.
Right.
The minimum is 5.
Yep.
We have 10 only because we're tying into an existing 10-foot wide sidewalk that leads to Sandbar Park. And we also probably will realize, just based on the road diet that's going to occur out there with Bay Road, that it may become more multi-used with
That's a wide sidewalk.
peds and bicyclists.
Can you go back one picture, Keith, to the, just where we think, where that sidewalk will come into where we applied CFA for this design of the Phase 2. And Phase 2 is right there on that screen, and this would bring a 7-foot shoulder on Bay Road from Clem down to Lake, and then this 400 to 500 foot sidewalk that would abut into the Sandbar Park gravel walk path, whatever. So that was the kind of planning aspect of it. I will say that Frank Chardy and Mark Johns, the two county legislators who represent Webster, reached out to some key town officials back in July of last year and said, we really want you to apply for this county sidewalk 50% construction grant. And we have been looking at different county roads, which Lake Road is one, and this is the best option, especially in the totality of the Bay Road diet and the ways that we're trying to get people into Sandbar Park besides just cars. So it kind of serves you kill about 9 birds with 1 stone.
You really do. And the other nice part about this is we're able to layer our grants, potential award for our grants, including our design fees into this as well.
Who's doing the sidewalk design? Is it the same engineering group that worked on the Sandbar Park?
It's the MRB group who is doing the sidewalk.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, if
Any other
10 feet
concerns?
is pretty wide, the wide sidewalk, you're looking at, is it possible to make it more affordable by doing a normal 5-foot sidewalk, and then when you get to the end, feathering it out to like attach to the other 10-foot connection?
Certainly.
Just an opportunity to look at another way to have that sidewalk and potentially save a little money and still have that walkway.
You're gonna save a lot of money because you pay by the square foot. What are their engineering fees for this, Keith, sidewalk?
So all soft costs in was 61.3.
And the estimate that you have, that's the proposal, and it's actually the number, or is it just going to be, different number once we
That is
get this?
their estimated fee at this point.
Yeah, because it's always like we have surprises. Is there like a cushion or is it like an emergency or something in there? So that
It's our best understanding of the fee at this moment, yes.
So MRB is not the same engineering company that did the Sandbar Park, correct? Or this is different?
I'm not sure, was Passero the design?
Passero and Bayer.
And Bayer were the
Yep.
design team for Sandbar Park.
What do you think of this, Paul? Do we have a budget that's set aside for this project? You, Paul.
Yeah, that's the
Thank you.
thing. There's only, yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I'm so sorry. No, I'm saying that, with the town, we set aside a budget or something, for this project, so that it's not gonna like,
Is that microphone not on,
It
by
does
the way?
not seem to be.
Okay. Is there one over there that, and as Paul moves over there,
thank you.
yeah.
we
I
had
said,
the, go ahead, Paul.
It would have to be funded as a capital project, and we have to determine the funding source, whether we borrow the funds or it
still
would come
can't hear
from general fund, so it could come from general.
I still
fund.
can't hear
Paul,
you.
can you get that microphone closer to you, or get another microphone, please?
All right, let's try it for the third time.
There we go.
That's better.
There we go.
There we go. It would have to be a capital project, and we would have to determine the funding source for that project, which could be general fund townwide. There are surplus funds there that could be used.
So I wanna-
Or possibly it could be
Oh.
rolled into the bond anticipation note for the Sandbar Park, we'd have to take a look at that.
Thank you, Paul.
So I think it's critical to kind of, because I can see, and these are great questions, because Sandbar Park, this sidewalk technically is not in Sandbar Park. It's a connector that gets you right to the edge of Sandbar
Right.
Park. So we checked with CFA leading up to July 31st, because our main grant that we were going for was Parks and Rec for the design and engineering of Phase 2 Education Center and Phase 3 walkway along the lake. So we were told by the state that the best way to get awarded on that was to not, because we got turned down in '24 for the whole kit and caboodle on Phase 2, construction and design and engineering. When we did the post-op, or, they sit down with us and say, well, what can we do to make us win? Josh, in more words or less, they said, listen, the state loves this project. It's a beautiful park. They love coming up, the dignitaries, and cutting ribbons. What you're going to want to do at 2025 CFA is apply for design and engineering of both Phase 2 Education Center and Phase 3, the walkway, okay? We said, okay, we'll do that. And then all of a sudden, as we had the Bay Road Diet coming into play, jumping into the fray was, geez, if we could get that county sidewalk, which Frank Chardy and Mark Johns have been on us for the last year saying, come on, man, there's $10 million and all the other towns are using it, but here we are, we go to county legislator meetings, and we're not using it. And I said, well, great, this is the perfect project to use it on. And to the best of my knowledge, if we sign this IMA tonight, it's almost it's a fait accompli. We're going to get 50% of the construction cost. But the engineering and design cost, when we said, wait a minute, we'd like to see if we can get that within the grant on the CFA. And we went to the state and said, listen, this sidewalk is not in Sandbar Park, but it connects to the pathway that is into Phase 2. Would you consider that within our application for the engineering and design of Phase 2 and Phase 3? And to my pleasant surprise, they said yes. Now we had a deadline to get the certain things you need to put together by July 31st. And because MRB is on the town's contract, it retained as our engineering firm, and we talked to Paul, because this is a professional service field, we don't have a lot of time here. We have to submit with this application the design and some of the stuff and whatever. And so MRB basically jumped into that, and we were able to apply by July 31st, and we'll find out in December if we got awarded on the design and engineering of Phase 2 and Phase 3 and this sidewalk. In parallel, we want to go to the county to get this, what we think is almost a rubber stamp approval of half the construction cost. And if we do that, then you can see that a project that's around $300,000, and it could be, redesigned to 5 foot and feathering and all that stuff. As you can see on this picture, the second picture, and Keith, I don't blame you. You have a picture of Bay Road as it is right now, 4 lanes with a 3 foot, shoulder. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a 3 lane with a 7 foot shoulder, so we're going to have to work with MCDOT to figure out on Lake Road and on Bay Road, how does this sidewalk curl around to match up with the 7 foot shoulder? And that's why they have 400 to 500 feet, because it's very hard to tell right now when those things are still up in the air. I'll take a deep breath, Denise. Does that help explain a little bit about where we're at on this?
Did you say, and I apologize for asking this question if you've already explained it, but you had mentioned something about MRB. We used MRB specifically because the towns, they're under contract with the town?
So here's what happened. Back in, I think, July of 2023, Mary Harrington and her family moved south. Well, prior to that, Mary and Josh had said, look, we got certain things going on in town that we should get an engineering firm on retainer to do certain overflow projects and things like that. This was before we had any idea, and this certainly wasn't because Mary was leaving, but we did a resolution, I'm going to say circa February of 2023, to get them on retainer. And because we did that, we got a preferential billing rate and all that, not because it's an open contract. Now, when Mary left, thank goodness we had that, because then we had them do the town engineer. They stepped into the position of town engineer, and we didn't really have to do too much more resolutions, because we had already 5 months ago made them on retainer with us. We then spent however months looking for a new town engineer, and in May of 2024, we hired Keith. And if you take a look at how much we've spent with MRB between when Mary was gone and when he showed up, it was a significant amount of money. They were our town engineer. And really, over the last 14, 15 months, and I bird dog this, sometimes to Keith's detriment or chagrin, and Paul, I want to see the billing every month, because I want to see how MRB is less and less and less, because we have W-2 engineering staff. That help?
So, and I don't mean to belabor this.
No, keep going.
Because you talk about bird dogging.
Because when we start late, you guys will all blame Councilman Cahill, right?
He talked a lot longer than I did. So, because they're under retainer, I assume they're still under retainer, so we are going directly to them rather than trying to compare other engineering firms' costs, not specifically for this project. I'm just talking about projects going forward. And if it's inappropriate to bring this time
No.
this time, then I apologize. Because
we had a timing issue, Jen.
There is a project that I looked at.
Yep.
similar to what we were going to do. And their engineering costs were half of what MRB's engineering costs
The dog kennel,
proposed.
yes.
Which is why, going forward,
Yep.
I'm just asking the question.
It's a great
Is that
question.
something we
Yep.
should consider putting
Yep.
RFPs out for?
And I'm going to say it again, we found ourselves, we got an opportunity here. The state said we can put it into the grant application. The deadline is
Totally.
July 31st. We're like, we can go and do, bids and all this stuff. By the time we go through all that process, the opportunity is gone.
I totally understand
So-
this is an outlier.
Right.
I'm talking about going forward on projects.
Oh, without a
that are
doubt,
engineering.
without a doubt. No, and Paul, we talk about that all the time in the procurement policy. I think we do a pretty good job of making sure that we don't just spend the taxpayers' dollars flippantly. And I want to make this very clear. This is all constructed, as everybody's coming in now at the end of the workshop, that, I don't hate to put it this way, if the engineering and design cost is $47,000 versus $61,000, if we get the CFA grant, this sounds terrible, we're not paying for it. The grant is paying the engineering and design cost. Now, I don't want to waste your state tax dollars, but when we looked at this with only a month to go until the July 31st deadline, we didn't really have a lot of time to go out there and see if we can horse trade and do bids and get in front of the board and put out something to 3 or 4 engineering firms to bid on this. And I certainly think, and Keith, you and Pat, I know because sidewalks and what we did up on Ridge Road a couple years ago with the federal grant, because of the complexity of this design, because of culverts and this and that, you guys had said to me, that's not out of line. So, thank you very much, Keith. We went a little bit over. It's 7:02. That is the end of the workshop. We're going to start the regular board meeting